All right. Well, we have a special guest today for the Muscle Discord podcast. We have IFBB Pro Nate Spear. Welcome, Nate, to the podcast.
What's up, guys? How you doing?
Great, great.
Good, man. Good.
Great to have you here. And especially because you are 4 weeks out from the New York Pro. And so it's great to kind of dive in and discuss how things are going for you right now, how the prep's coming along. And just a little bit of context with Nate. I know Nate years back. He was a 2016 Mutant of the Month. I remember that, and I was yeah. Congrats, Nate. There, and I mean, yeah, obviously you had potential way back then, and so that's kind of the context we have. And I saw the potential in him back then, and full circle, he's IFBB Pro now, and exciting to see your progress, man. The hard work you've been putting in, the journey that you've been through, has been amazing to see, and it's an inspiration. And glad you're on the right path now and moving forward. And you recently just got your pro card, so we'll discuss that. But this,
Definitely.
anyways, let me know how your prep is going right now. You're 4 weeks out. We just posted on our Instagram some progress photos of you at about 253 pounds, 4 weeks out from the New York Pro. Where are you at? Are you on track? Are you ahead, behind?
Yeah. I did want to actually just touch base real quick, but it's just pretty cool to like sometimes you have someone that knows like from the beginning, you know what I mean? So
Yes.
that's pretty cool. It went like full circle, you know.
Yeah.
It brings back cool memories too, like because it was like right when I first competing and just everything was so green, you know what I mean? And you're just sort of doing it for the fun and the love of it, and nothing's really like in the mix like that, you know what I mean? It's just like it's a different type of animal, I think, when you first start because you're just like so hungry, you know. It's like a different type of hunger, right? But yeah, as far as this prep, I mean, everything has been going so amazing. Probably one of my best preps yet, as far as like stress and just quality of life. And as we know in bodybuilding, especially for at a higher level, you know, stress and cortisol and having a sort of clear head at all times and, you know, no distractions. We know that kind of stuff is going to be, most efficient for bodybuilding progress, right? Even mostly in prep. But so this has been a really nice. Sorry, my dog's like, hey, it's like taking the floor over there. But no, this prep's been really smooth because it's sort of weird, but all my other preps I've been with a significant other. So this is my first prep I've actually been single. So it's been pretty strange, you know, because like I guess usually that's most people can relate because most people are usually in relationships in their preps, but like I guess you have like a duty at all times, you know, as a significant other, no matter what you're doing, I guess, you know what I mean? So in prep, it was like you almost had to put in the extra effort when you didn't want to.
Yeah.
Whereas like now I can just sort of come home, plop on the couch or, you know what I mean? Whatever. I don't have to like sort of, you know, put forth the extra effort when I don't want to and that kind of stuff. So it makes it a little bit easier. And then just like lower stress, you know, you're not having to, I think a lot of people, no matter how good your relationship is, when you're like, maybe not one of your preps, but one of your preps will be like 3 weeks out, you know what I mean? You might be getting into it and you might have a great relationship, you know, prior to that, but bodybuilding, obviously, it's almost like dealing with someone that's like not intoxicated, but like, you know, has a swayed thinking almost, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Different, you know, an altered state to some degree,
Yeah.
just from the basis of doing what you're doing.
Definitely. So it makes it a little easier that way. And then also just this is my first. So I actually started full-time coaching about a year and a half ago. So a lot of my actually off-season progress, I actually will say it came a lot from, you know, living the coaching lifestyle, right? So before I was on my feet all the time, like 10 to 12 hours a day, high stress job, high expectation job, like, you know, all this stuff that's pretty much not conducive to bodybuilding. So then I go, you know, opposite side of spectrum, and it's sort of like the bodybuilding lifestyle, I guess, that it's supposed to be lived, I guess, at this level. But it just I definitely noticed a big shift in progress because I could train any time of day. I was always
Yeah.
fresh. I was always recovered. I wasn't getting out of work at like 8 p.m. at night after a 12-hour shift, smashing pre-workout to go
Yeah.
get an okay workout in, and then go try to fall, you know what I mean? Just it was hard for sure. And so this prep has been start to finish. I've just had that sort of set up too. So it's been pretty easy that way. So I guess if you could make up the perfect prep, I mean, it's really,
This would be it.
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
And like I said,
That's very interesting. Yeah, I was gonna, it's just very interesting because you don't really think about that in terms of what being single may do for the prep. So you can be absolutely selfish in a way, and everything can be about you. Whereas when you're with somebody, you want to do all these things for that person naturally, but when you're prepping, it's a different beast altogether, right? And it takes a toll on the relationship type of thing. So it's funny how things kind of flipped for you, and it was a perfect storm.
Yeah, definitely. And it's not like I'm saying, I want to be single for the rest of my life, but it's
No,
just sort
heck
of
no.
In that moment, it's just sort of reflect on some of like the points there, right?
Yeah.
But no, as far as the prep thing's going, it's been like amazing. It's just been really cool because some preps are so enjoyable because you made such progress.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's exciting, right? Because you get to see I feel like I'm unpacking a whole new physique. So it's very exciting in that regard because I'm seeing a new physique and at a level that I've been competing at, almost 10 years consistently. Whereas I guess it makes it bittersweet because I guess I've always been like a skeptic type of person. So for me, this progress is like almost unreal,
Yep.
So it's much more exciting. So it makes the prep easier and funner, right? So it's been fun. It's definitely now at the point where like last week we started doing the double sessions of cardio, and like I would say Monday, that was yesterday, right?
Yep.
Was my hardest day.
Yeah.
And today was like my hardest day too, back to back, because well, like I was telling you guys before, the sleep, obviously, and then you're using like stimulants to
Yeah.
burn fat and do
Yep.
cardio, and
Yep.
you feel like like
Laying in bed. Yeah. I've been there.
yeah.
Yeah.
But I think it's just the sleep thing. I'll probably, how it is, sometimes you'll get like a really good night's sleep here sooner or later.
Yeah.
And then you'll be like, oh wow, and then you drop like 3 pounds and you're like peeled out of your mind because you got, what I mean, your
Yeah.
cortisol and everything
Yes.
dropped, and you got
Yeah.
yeah.
No, I mean, that's good. I mean, I've been through that process, and yeah, when you're on the stimulants, you just can't fall asleep, and your whole sleeping pattern's out of whack. But what I also wanted to dive into, a lot of guys go on these interviews and they talk about their shows, but they don't really dive into their diet. And a lot of people that watch these, they're up and coming, they're going through the amateur ranks. They want to know like what you're eating 4 weeks out from a pro show. So
Yeah.
what's kind of your macro breakdown right now for meals?
Yeah, so actually this prep we did something a little differently. We did so I have like 2 high days and then like 3 base days that are all around training, and then 2 rest days that are like a low day, right?
Okay.
So essentially what that looks like is the rest day is about 100 grams of carbs, and then the base day is about 200 grams of carbs, and then 300 grams of carbs is a high day.
Okay.
And then I use those high days on the day before I train legs.
Okay.
So it's sort of like locked in a little bit, you know what I
Yes.
mean?
Yeah.
And then I'll have a base day the next day. So I'll still have some carbs around my training. So I usually train at 11 in the morning. So I'll have like a full day prior, right? And then I'll wake up and I'll have my carbs in the morning around my training. And then the rest of the day I won't have any, you know what I mean? So it sort of works out that way. And then that's pretty much stay the same. Rest days are a little bit higher, but and then protein across the board is about 380.
380. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
So I would say I'm more of a guy that's I guess it depends on I mean, everyone's gonna have their own sort of what works for them, so that's what they believe in.
yeah,
But I've always been like a lower moderate protein guy. I've never really like, once I've gotten to like my size I am now, I've been at like 8 ounces pretty consistently, but I never really, I've tried to go higher and I just didn't really notice, more of like a digestion thing than anything.
yeah,
But for me, I always like would like to have room for the carbohydrates personally.
Yeah.
Like I remember Jay was really big on that actually. Like he was like sort of like a lower protein but super high carbohydrate kind of
yeah,
guy. And I just feel like my body was really responsible to that. I mean, obviously, too, when we talk about this kind of stuff, like because I coach too, so
yeah,
we got to remember we're like talking about pro bodybuilders.
yes,
So like sometimes the food and the diet and that kind of stuff, like people try to like mimic, like, or they'll like you coach people and they'll be like, oh, like we're gonna carb load, right? And I'm like, you're gonna get like a little bit of extra carbs, you know what I
yeah,
mean? Like we're not going nuts here.
yeah,
It's your first show, like you don't really have that muscle to like
exactly. Yeah, yeah,
um so obviously take that into mind. But no, but the food was actually really high though, I will say that, until like about maybe 10 weeks out. Like I mean, like even like 5,000 calories out, because like it's really strange, but I have a really good metabolism, but my glutes just are a bitch to get in.
yeah.
So
I
um
had the same
so
problem.
like I get into shape, and then it's like, okay, now we got to really like kick it up 4 times
Yes.
to get the rest in shape, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So what's how much cardio are you doing per day?
So right now I'm doing 35 fasted and then 35 post workout.
Okay. Okay. And
So it's not too bad. I mean,
no,
yeah, it's just more the doubles can like sort of beat you up a little bit more, I find.
yeah,
Like I would honestly personally rather do it all in the morning, but it is more effective for me personally to
yeah,
do the double, because I feel like it's just like sort of spiking your metabolism twice, you know what I mean? Or sort of getting everything going, you know what I mean, a second
yeah.
time, personally. But
Okay. And the type of training you're doing, are you like more heavy, hardcore, lower rep range, even while you're prepping for a show, or are you maybe say 12 to 15 rep range per set?
yeah, I would say I'm a little bit of a mixed bag, but I would definitely say I'm more like a little bit higher volume, a little bit higher reps, more like a pump kind of guy. I'll say I probably don't train to true failure very often. Probably, 1 rep left in the tank or something like that.
Yeah.
But I also say, like, me personally, I say true failure means like you fail. So
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
you know what
Yeah.
I mean? So like if I'm doing a hack squat, it means like I'm pretty much, someone's either saving me or I'm
Yeah.
getting stuck. um, so, but no, pretty much what I would, honestly, it's weird. Like no one really trains like me, I feel like, but I train sort of like 2000s kind of guy, like MD magazine.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
um,
Yeah. Yeah. Yep.
I do a lot of like 2 top sets, honestly. Like,
Mhm.
how a lot of guys now do like a top set and a back off set.
Yeah.
So I won't lie, I do like, usually I might do the same weight twice, but I might try to get it like the same amount of times, I guess, which is like very old school, I think.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Whereas a lot of guys, I think maybe that's junk volume. I don't know, but or a lot of guys do the back off now. But so I do a lot of 2 top sets, and then I do a lot of intensifiers too. But I will say for legs, I made a post too, but like a lot of guys, or not a lot of guys, but people that have followed me a little bit, my legs were always sort of like like behind my upper body. Um, so I really made a big change about a year and a half ago. And before I was like so obsessed with load and pretty much pushing as much weight as I could on like the hack squat and all that kind of stuff. And uh I pretty much went back to the drawing board and like started doing more research. And I was doing research, actually what I figured out was power lifters that squat super deep and narrow usually have a humongous quads. So for me personally, I started going back to the drawing board and making sure pretty much redoing my form so I could go full range of motion as deep as I could with my mechanics.
Yeah.
So that also meant I
Nice.
would only use machines that I could do that with too. Like, meaning, so there's some machines I honestly couldn't do that with if I wanted to, or it's just really awkward. Like even a squat, I really can't squat properly 100% to target my quads.
Mhm.
So like the pendulum squat was my bread and butter,
Yep.
honestly. And then the leg press, like the old Dorian one, the Cybex, that's really good. I could get like super deep on that. And then just like really good cadence, tempo.
Mhm.
And I just like it's crazy because like I wasn't even like not squatting that deep either. It was like, you know, like maybe like right here, right?
Yeah.
So like on video, I'm like, yeah, I'm good. I can post that on Instagram. So it was like one of those where it was like just barely.
Yep. Yep.
But for me, like I noticed my quad on the top part really blew up. Like, so I never really had amazing sweeps, but my quad started like filling out to the top part where maybe it wasn't getting activated. So it
Yep.
improved my sweep in that regard.
Yeah.
Whereas we know genetically sometimes to improve a sweep is obviously very difficult.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I found that way was just targeting my quad differently, and I will never not do that again. I guess like
There you go.
it's just but I think a lot of people that have weaker legs, they have to do that. Whereas like, because sometimes you'll see like pros and stuff, like they'll be training with like maybe they're not, the reps aren't very deep, but their quads are humongous, right? So we got to be careful of that too.
Yeah. Yeah. So that brings up a good point. I wanted to talk about your last show was the Boston Pro 2022. That was your first pro show. Um, I think you placed 8th there, which is a good showing. And so from that show, like, what did you compete on stage at the Boston Pro?
So Boston Pro is 245.
245.
So
So what do you think you're going to be on stage for the New York Pro?
probably like 250, like right on the dot.
Yeah. Yeah. So
Yep.
that's a good game
Yeah.
for a year. 5 pounds of muscle is like,
And honestly too, like not to be like, I don't know, because like, you know, as bodybuilders, we're just like super analytical. But so when I actually Boston, like, yeah, I was 245, but I also came off of nationals where I sort of like rebounded into it. So where nationals, I was actually like 241.
Mhm.
So it was more like my true depleted state, I would say, was nationals. And then we backed off the cardio and fed up into Boston. So we could come in fuller because we were already in shape. And it really worked out. It was pretty crazy actually that it was 12-week difference, but my physique like got much better than I expected at least.
yeah.
Which is pretty cool because like I pretty much needed every ounce of size I could, you know, on that stage.
Mhm.
So I definitely filled out like a little bit to help me in that regard, right? Because like I don't, you remember it was like William Bonac, Sampson,
Yes.
Steve Kuklo,
Yeah. Yeah.
Bill
It was deep.
Pahar.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
It was deep.
Yeah.
yeah, it was pretty wild. Um,
Yeah. No,
yeah, and then so oh, go ahead.
no, go ahead. Go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say, but yeah, so now pretty much they didn't have Boston anymore, so New York was like the closest show for the East Coast guys, Northeast at least, you know. So and then I don't know, I might hit Toronto. Who knows? I have my passport, so
Yeah.
Right. There you go. You're
possibility.
welcome. Love to see you up here.
It's sort of one of those things where I sort of want to see how New York goes, and then like if I place, it's sort of my decision sort of is decided by
Yeah.
how I sort of place, I guess, you know.
Exactly.
Because I don't want to just waste money either. So I do want to be strategic about it. Like I am the type of guy where at this level, I'll fly to a show if it's gonna better my chance for an Olympia qualification.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I
Yep.
mean? Like,
Yep.
I there's no shame in that game. Like no one's gonna ask you when you're on the Olympia stage how you got there, you know.
No.
So
No. You're
No.
there.
yeah.
No. So yeah, and that's so you worked on your legs from last year. Is there any other body parts that you wanted to improve from last year?
I'd say my lats got a lot better and my back in general. I think part of it too is it's crazy though. Like I never really, I remember watching Jay Cutler videos and like he was getting all that body work done, and I was like, oh yeah, like that was like sort of BS or
Yep, yep.
overplayed. And
Yeah.
but man, like I am like getting body work done like religiously now the last year and a half, and it's like made tremendous difference in my physique too, like and my posing abilities. Just I learned a lot too. I went out to I even flew out to San Diego and saw Derek Farnsworth, and he worked on me for like four times in like a matter of a week or something, and he just
Oh wow.
taught me so much while he was working on me. So that was pretty cool to like have that information now, and even as a coach. But sorry, I got off topic. What was the original?
Body parts that you worked to bring up.
Yeah, you're
Oh
just
yeah,
bringing up your back. Yeah.
yeah. So back was part of it, and a lot of it was like doing that, getting that body work done, and getting finding the right people to
Yep.
get the body work done from. That's the biggest piece, because I'm in New Hampshire. I mean, you guys are in Canada. I'm sure it's probably the same. It's probably not easy to like track down the best
No.
people to
No.
do body work, right? So it was really took me a while. Like I finally found a guy where I drive an hour to him, but he'll work on me for like 2.5 hours, and like he is brutal, and
Wow.
he's very, very good. So it took me a while to find that though, right? Uh and then like I started seeing this guy that just stretches me out. Like he like, you know what I mean? But it
Yeah.
feels amazing, and like the posing and everything, it just helps tremendously. Like with my side try and my back double and rear lat, like everything like that is all sort of connected. So it's something I've been really big on this last year or so. I definitely have made it. It's definitely made a huge difference. But no, I would say my back definitely came up a lot. I think um uh like I just am really big on sticking with like, I think a lot of guys are getting caught up on the machines.
Hmm.
And like I'm really big on like barbell rows and
Yeah.
T-bar rows and one arm dumbbell rows even.
Yeah, yeah.
And
You don't see the one arm dumbbell rows too much anymore in the
no,
gyms
yeah.
at all.
I think
So
I think they're amazing for building your lat thickness.
yeah,
And
man.
like guys are too worried about the cable thing, but it's like that's more like a isolation. I don't see that beating up the lat, you know what I mean? Like
No,
really,
no.
densifying it,
Yeah, yeah.
Um and I think a lot of people just don't really know how to perform the exercise right to get the most bang for the buck, like a barbell row. Like so
Yeah,
many
so
guys
they
are just
so
doing
so
it
they just
wrong.
avoid it. Yeah,
Right, right.
yeah.
So whereas for me, I used to barbell row like 4 plates aside. And like I said, it looked okay on camera, enough to post.
Yeah.
It's funny what we're
But
concerned about these days, right?
right.
It's it's
You're
it's
like, okay,
it's
this is
it's it's
postable.
post worthy. It's post worthy, right? Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Funny.
So I started, now I went back to like maybe like 3 plates aside and just tightened everything up, where there's like I feel like I'm the machine. You know what I mean? Like
Mhm.
the way I'm
Right, right.
moving,
Exactly,
my hips,
exactly.
my
And
hips are
you're
not
using
moving,
these
like,
tools. Yeah,
and I'm pulling with my back 100%. You know what I mean? And I can feel it when I do a barbell row. I can feel it top to the bottom. And like if you look at my pictures, even just posted, like my erectors are very like strong in the lower
Yeah.
region, whereas a lot of guys I feel like are missing that. We're talking about that
Yeah.
a lot with some of the Olympia guys this year. And I just think there's so many like these pretty like these guys are part of these gyms with like Panadas and the fucking the
Yeah. Yeah.
Atlantis and the Pure Muscle. They have like you
Mhm.
know
yeah, yeah.
20 different Panada back pieces, or you know what I mean. Like it's so I can see why it's hard not to
Yeah.
use that stuff. Like I just don't really, I've never really had like a gym. So I guess that's like it's like
Blessing
it's
and
sort
a
of like
curse.
yeah, because I never
Yeah,
really
yeah.
had gyms that were like amazing. So I had to like work my way around. Like the first like 4 years of my bodybuilding was like Anytime Fitness, that just really like they didn't even have a hack squat as like a leg press, and like that was like, and the quad extension, like that was like their main leg stuff. And it was like you sort of had to make do, like train hamstrings, you do dumbbells, do whatever you could with them, you know what I mean, like that kind
Exactly.
of stuff. Yeah.
Yep, yep, yep.
um
Yeah.
Just bring it
but
back to
yeah,
basics. So it's good.
I mean, I do think some of that stuff is like lost. Like even like pull-ups, I think were great for like building back thickness. You see a lot of guys in the 80s all they did was freaking pull ups, chin ups.
All they did,
They-
you know, all the pictures in the magazines were of
yeah,
Gasperi and
Yeah.
everybody doing pull-ups, for crying out loud.
yeah. And I
You
always
know?
start my back day with pull ups. I mean, they're assisted pull ups, but enough where I can really isolate and feel, you know, a good stretch and that kind of stuff. So
Yeah.
I think a lot of people just are like, they follow like a trend and they aren't doing their own research. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like I'm really good at training because I've sort of experimented on my own and like
Yeah.
figured all this stuff out where I'm not just sort of just following whatever the, you know, pattern is at the moment or whatever.
Yeah, or whatever the top influencer at the moment might be doing. So
Yeah. Like when push pull legs was like, yeah, push pull legs, push pull legs. It's like, okay, like, I don't know, like,
Yeah, it's
It's
funny. It's
funny.
funny. Arnold and the guys back in the day didn't have all these machines, and look at their physique.
yeah,
So
yeah, for sure.
you don't need them. You just need the basics. And
Yeah.
you can do a lot as long as you're training properly. But that reminds me, I'm just interested, a little recap on like the Olympia and your thoughts on, you know, maybe even the top 4 or 5, you know, for that show. What are your thoughts on like Hottie and you know, Brandon Curry, Derek Lunsford? You know, did you and Nick Walker, did you agree with the placings or did you have it a different way?
I'm just really excited about bodybuilding right now, man. Like,
Yeah.
it's a good time. Yeah, because I mean, like, think about it when we were coming up, like Phil Heath era. It was sort of
Yeah.
like they were amazing, but it was just
Yeah.
sort of boring. It was like, okay, we knew the placings every year, whatever.
yeah.
Same,
But like,
same.
and you got like, and just like, I think this is becoming an era where like the genetics are amazing again, like the
Mhm.
90s, as long as
Yes.
these guys can fulfill that, you know, gift that they have.
Yeah.
Like the Andrew Jack, the Quintons, the
Mhm.
Samson, like
Yeah.
these dudes are ridiculous, man. Like, and then there's like more guys that I'm missing, obviously, you know, just off the top of my head, but some crazy, Keon, right? Derek Lunsford, dude, these guys are once in a lifetime physiques, in my opinion, right?
Yeah.
So it's just really cool. And like a lot of these guys are still progressing, which is also really cool. Like Derek's
Yeah.
still progressing, like that's insane.
Yep.
So no, it's just really exciting. But yeah, as far as I would agree with that. I mean, I think Hottie just had a way more density and thickness to his physique, where I mean, yeah, and his
Derek.
legs were just like crazy.
Yeah.
His quads were just so full. And Derek's, I think, if that's the one thing I can nitpick about Derek in that moment, I would say quads maybe could be, you know, to sort of stand with Hottie. I think the Hottie's quads are a little better, you know.
Yep.
Yeah.
And
And
then like on the rear lat spread, you could see the thickness and like Hottie's, like the density and like all through his posterior chain.
yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. I think
Um,
with Derek, his chest needs more density. Like
yeah,
Hottie's just lines crushing
right.
all through it.
Yeah.
And Derek is just kind of, it's got that
And
baby.
also too, you know, like I can see it on the screen, but like we've been around for a while that we know that density like Hottie has in
Yeah.
person is probably like insane, right? Like
Yes. Yes. The camera
um
doesn't pick it up. The
yeah,
live stream doesn't pick it up. So yeah. Yeah.
yeah. And I just like really appreciate how he's a freak and his like waist control is like immaculate. Like no one really even
Yep.
comments on that, but like he'll literally pull a vacuum, hold it, and just be like, da-da-da, and like,
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
and like, it's like perfect. And I'm like, damn, that's like, you know, and
Yeah.
I only respect that because I know myself that has to work on their waist control, how much of a pain in the butt it is, and it's hard to
Exactly.
keep up with it.
Yeah.
And it's not something that's fun to do. And like, you can tell he's like perfected it. So
And
it's
Nate, do you actively kind of pursue that and you know, practice that and kind of carve out some time to practice that control?
Oh yeah, definitely. I've noticed a big difference when I can hit a vacuum in my frontal lobe bicep. It's just some people it can make such a big difference, like Charles Griffin, right?
Yep.
But then some guys it can't. Like I remember when Ian was trying to hit a vacuum, it really didn't really do much for him. So it really depends on
No.
the physique. But for me, when I pull a vacuum in, it like it takes like 3 inches off my waist somehow. But
Right. And everything just caves, right? You know, it
yeah,
just that
and with
caves,
me,
and then everything else just blows up because of that, you know?
yeah, and with me, I have a really nice like an ab wall outline still. So when I pull my vacuum, and you can still see
Oh,
like
so
the
it's still
outline.
good.
Yeah.
Yeah, where some
Nice,
guys they sort
nice.
of miss that or whatever. So I would say it's pretty pleasing. But the problem I find is in the past, if I don't continue to do what I would get the vacuum locked in, and then I'd get lazy,
Yep.
and you'd lose it. Like it's something I have to do religiously, like
Okay.
all the time to get really good at it. For me, at least. I know probably some of the other guys, like the classic guys, they do it so easily, but
Right. They
it's
just
pretty.
fall into the pose. Yeah.
It's very hard for me, honestly, and it takes a lot of work, like consistent work. Like all throughout the day, I'm honestly doing it, like
Okay.
Good, good.
just like
Hey,
randomly. Yeah,
yep, yep.
I'll
Do
just
what you
be
need
like
to
sort
do.
of doing the dishes and be like, okay, I'm gonna do one real quick, and
There you
I
go.
try to hold it as long as I can.
Yeah, yeah.
Um,
Finish this plate, right? While you're
yeah,
holding it. Yeah, 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 yeah.
I mean, I have grown, and I feel like my waist has sort of stayed the same. So, I mean,
Yep.
I think there is something to be said for it. I mean, I noticed when I started doing them, like I started doing them like 3 or 4 years ago, and I noticed a big difference in like my physique, at least my front double bicep mainly. Um, and I did notice like I don't know, it sounds weird, but it did feel like my waist got a little bit smaller. But maybe I don't know if how that works, but
Hey, man, it's working. So that's all you need to know.
Yeah.
It's working.
yeah,
That's all you need.
at least visually, at least
It
visually.
looks,
I mean,
Mhm.
yeah, you got you're a 250 plus pound bodybuilder with
Yeah,
a
and you're
vacuum,
gonna vacuum that in.
tiny
That's a
waist.
win. That's a W.
So
yeah.
what's your mindset going into this show? So New York Pro, it's probably one of the biggest pro shows out there next to the Arnold Classic and Olympia, if you think about it.
Yeah, yeah. Yep.
So the lineup isn't a huge lineup yet that we can
Yeah.
run into. But still it's the New York Pro. There's gonna be lots of media, lots of attention on that show. So what's your goal for that show? Like what's an expectation you have, or like what are you happy with getting there?
Uh, yeah. Yeah, I mean, there's not really, I haven't really seen too many Olympians or anything like sort of throw their name in the hat,
Yeah.
the ring yet, but it is pretty cool that there's actually 4 overall national champions that are actually competing in it. So like the Beef Stew, he won Mr. USA, and then Carlos won nationals. That's those supers I was with when I got my pro card, and then Eric Wood, he won North Americans like maybe 2 years ago, and then Walter Debs, who just won nationals last year. So it's a lot of new,
Yeah.
you know what I mean, newly turned pro guys. But I think there's a lot of amazing physiques. So I think a lot of people are going to be really impressed because if you like go down through those physiques, like a lot of those guys are going to be shredded. I mean, Brent Swanson's another guy he was already on the scene a little bit, but he gets inside out nasty peeled. So I think whoever's in that first call out is going to be shredded, and it's going to be an impressive first call out for a lot of new guys that a lot of people aren't unaware of. But
Yeah.
I think a lot of these guys just have great physiques, and it's going to stand out on that stage. So that'll be pretty cool. But I mean, so for me, my goal is definitely first call out. I would say
Yep.
is probably reasonable. I hope. And I mean, my goal is probably top 3.
Yep.
It would be pretty sweet. And it would obviously sort of put me on the map a little bit, right?
Yep.
But as long as I can present the physique that I am like looking at right now and sort of visualizing, like when you're like 4 weeks out or whatever, you sort of see the
Yeah.
end goal and like what it's going to look like and all this. And I see a really great physique. Like, I don't know, I'm a fan of my physique, so that's pretty cool. I think like there's a lot of good like detail in my physique and like that a lot of people don't have maybe these days.
Yeah.
And I think there's like a lot of good features um that I guess I'm sort of like proud of, you know what I mean? Like maybe not a lot of guys have. Like my side leg has a lot of really good detail and stuff like that. And like my abs get really, really dry and like really, really etched out. Um and just having the small waist and
Yep.
practicing the vacuums and that kind of stuff. Like, and I'm gonna hit the vacuum with the like into the ab and thigh for the show, like that kind of stuff.
Nice.
So um yeah, I'm excited. Like I said in the beginning, I'm just I feel like I've already won because just the amount of progress that I made this last
Yeah.
off season. Like, and I know I'm on my way just like by how I'm looking and like knowing, been in the game long enough and like not even maybe right now, but like where my physique stands today, I can see, even if it's just a little more muscle,
Yeah.
like, and I keep growing like I am, like it's just like I can't be denied, I guess, at some point.
No,
Yeah.
because
Because I feel like feel like I have all the tools, you know what I mean? It's just maybe
yeah.
obviously like maybe more size or something, but if I keep growing like the same rate and the same way, you know.
Well, you think about it though, like maybe you'll be 250 on stage. And like Phil Heath, genetic freak that he was in the 245, 250 as
Yeah.
well. So
Yeah, it's
do
crazy.
you need to get bigger? No, I not necessarily. You just have to refine that muscle,
That's true.
bringing that shredded condition, dried out condition, hardness, and just
Yeah.
shock people with that. Because that's what Phil did. He
Yeah.
was just always shredded. He wasn't the biggest,
Yeah.
but he can shred it all the time and
Right.
dry. So
Yeah.
yeah, people, I got to get to 270, 280. Well, no, you're not. I mean, what's your height as well? With
5'10".
5'10". Okay. So I mean, yeah, maybe
Yeah.
you can get 5, 10 pounds heavier on your physique, your frame.
Yeah.
You'll add about that much, but there's not much more to go for you.
Yeah. Yeah. It's getting pretty close now, I think. You know what I mean? Like I'm getting to a point where I see like I'm at the point where I can visually see, I guess, what the finished product is like.
Yep.
Whereas like it takes you a while to get there, I guess. Like,
Mm.
or a lot of people maybe don't get there, right? Um, because I mean you have to be relatively close, I guess, to like how do I say close? I mean, obviously we go by like past stats or whatever, like okay,
Yep.
this pro's 5'10", then usually, 265, 260 or
Yes.
whatever is like whatever. So
Yep.
so yeah, I think maybe like, 260 is probably will be a good weight. And I do want to keep, like I said, the aesthetics of my physique. I do really like don't want to like I can like even though I can present my waist very nicely, I can ruin it very easily. I can tell because I do have to work on it a lot.
Yeah.
And if I didn't, it would be like, you know what I mean?
Yep.
Probably noticeable.
Yeah.
So I definitely want to be careful of that for sure.
Good. So after this show, depending on you might go do the Toronto Pro. Is that the only kind of show in sight you have set, or kind of take it by ear?
Well, there's another show in Orlando, and that's the first weekend in July. So that's a possibility too. I was actually going to do a show in Puerto Rico, but then they canceled it. So
There's a
that's a bummer.
Van Pro, July 15th, 16th.
Oh, that's true. That's actually a show that I've always sort of wanted to do because I've always wanted to visit beautiful BC.
Yep. Oh, he knows the tagline too. Beautiful BC.
Yeah. Or
Yeah.
you got West Coast Iron. You can come visit up there too.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah, great atmosphere. Great atmosphere.
Yeah. Everyone that goes up there says they love it. So
Yeah, it'll be cool. Okay. Well, I think we're gonna wrap it up here. I don't want to keep you too much longer. I know it's late over there,
for sure.
but we have the fast 5 questions that I ask at the end of the
Yeah.
interview.
Yeah.
And so it says your first response to the word or the saying that I say, and then we will finish off with that. So first one is Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Terminator.
Okay. Deadlifts.
Franco Colombo.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
Only because I was on the Arnold thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, hey, no, he was the master at it too, man.
Yeah.
Right.
Dorian Yates.
Blood and Guts.
Oh yeah, classic.
Cardio.
Blood and Guts.
Dreading. Yeah, Dreading.
And then last one, Branch Warren.
Oh man. Bodybuilding hero.
Awesome.
There you go.
Awesome.
Yeah, I love it. He's a great guy.
Yeah. Couldn't finish off better. Nice.
Right.
All right, brother. Well, I appreciate it, and looking forward to the rest of your journey over these 4 weeks.
Yeah, we'll be watching.
Post the content,
Yeah,
man.
definitely.
Pump it out there. We'll share it. We'll push you.
Appreciate it.
We got your
Yeah, we'll
back.
come back on after the
Yeah,
show,
after, man,
or
for
maybe
sure.
off season or something, or
1,000%, 1,000%.
recap. All right, guys.
Yeah, we'll be rooting for you.
All right,
Appreciate
Nate.
it. Thanks for having me on.
Thanks a lot. Okay.
All right.
So
Talk soon.
take care.
Bye, guys.